Hi folks, we're at LR Workshop. I've just stolen a bit of time to talk about my chassis and what the plan is, considering the video I put out a couple of weeks ago. Sorry for the noise, we've got next door are having the... Oh, it's just turned it off. How great is that? They're just redoing their driveway, and currently also doing iPad parenting with my son. So there's some links in the description to different sections of this video if you want to just jump ahead. I'm going to need some advice on welding at the end of the video. So thank you for all your comments about my chassis. It seems to be summed up as, if you're from the UK, your comments seem to be, yeah, it'll weld up. And if you're from another part of the world, or if you have a foreign sounding name in your YouTube profile, it seems to be the case that you think I'm going to kill my children and you think I'm incredibly reckless. So it's an interesting difference of opinion there. I guess the normal for it is very interesting actually. What's normal for rust is different in different parts of the world. I see people posting rusty pictures in Australia on Instagram. I would call that surface rust. So there's different levels of normal there. However, I accept it's near the end of its life. I totally accept that, and remedial action does need to occur, which I'm going to talk about in this video. There's a whole lot of work ahead of me. For the moment, yes, we've decided together no children are going to be travelling in the vehicle. Actually, no passengers are going to be travelling in the vehicle. That makes that a lot easier. Certainly it gives you an interesting perspective. Is it neglect? I've probably neglected the Defender for a few years, but that's life. Other things have happened in the last few years. As I say, I waxsawed it 6 years ago. I probably should have done it at least 2 or 3 years ago as well. 3 years ago it was sat in the garage, like inside the garage, having not been moved for almost a year. So my general theme is that my plan was always to do a rebuild with this Defender at some point. That was originally going to be in 2012. I was going to put it on a galvanized chassis in 2012. That didn't happen for one reason or another. So I've always known that I'm going to rebuild this Defender at some point and convert it into the spec I want it to be. Somewhat rest of the world spec based, add in a few Puma parts for a bit of modernity. And so I've not really worried about things corroding in the meantime. I'm not going to waste time and effort and feel worried about and worry over individual parts of the vehicle, becoming worse, because I'll replace those bits in the future and do it properly from the outset, either galvanized or well rust prevented on new metal and things like that. So the doors are horrendous. This one's the inner's starting to pull away. So there's various things that is all sort of happening at once, and so I've always had in my head that I'm going to do a rebuild, which is kind of why I've maybe neglected the vehicle over the years, because I know that there's a rebuild off there waiting for me in the future, and that's been that way for the last 8 years. So the plan's changing all the time, and the end of this month my MOT was due. So I was thinking, so we had the 3 big problems. There was the mid-cross member, the front dumb irons on both sides, and the footwells are pretty bad. I didn't really show that in the video, but the footwells are like Flintstones car on both sides. So I was going to replace the mid-cross member, relatively straightforward job, and put it through an MOT now, because I like to have the MOT at this time of year because it's great for long evenings, better weather, that kind of stuff, to work on a car. I don't want to be doing it in the middle of January or December. So preserve my MOT, because at the moment with coronavirus we're allowed 6 months MOT extension just for free, but you have to keep it in roadworthy condition naturally, but the MOT's been extended. So I was hoping to just get the MOT anyway, because I don't want to be doing work on it in November. So I was going to replace the mid-cross member, try and get it through the MOT. If it needed welding on the front, work through the garage with that. Maybe they might be able to do it, what have you. Upon replacing the mid-cross member, which took friggin' ages, it took me 2 days, partly because, really it's the rusty bolts down here that just took ages, and then getting the thing out and trying to use angle grinders, reciprocating saw, that kind of stuff. I've posted bits on Instagram about my journey through that process. I've replaced the cross member now, the mid-cross member. I want to do a video on it at some point. Upon replacing it, I realised that the rear tub is pretty crumbly, and the C-posts on both sides are not connected anymore to the sill rails. which is great. My intention with these was always to go for a fully replaced galvanised BC posts and sills, side frames on each side. And that's now been brought forward to right now, because I was thinking I'm not going to go welding these. I'm not going to try and get these fixed. I'll just put in the new ones straight away. So I've recently relieved my wallet of £1,000 for some YRM C post, B post, side frame, whatever you want to call them, pillars. And with the aim that I'll throw those on. It shouldn't be too long. They should be able to just bolt in and out without having to dismantle too much of the vehicle. I've since got them, which got delayed delivery really. It took about 6 days for them to arrive, and kind of been through the process now of thinking, well, they've arrived. They're actually really good quality. The galvanizing is brand new, and I was going to throw them on and not worry about it, but really the best time to paint them is now, when the galvanizing's fresh, rather than letting it get weathered. So I'm going to get them painted. The earliest I can get them painted is next week, and then I'll be fitting them. So I've kind of had a bit of downtime. This is the bank holiday weekend this weekend, which is a bit frustrating. So that's that, and then I'll get that sorted, C-post done. That's something else ticked off. As far as the rear tub goes, is my eventual plan to put in Puma second row seats in here. I think they're just safer, they're better. I mean, you've got high back support without having to get those atrocious Exmoor trim things. They came in this vehicle originally. You cannot fold them down like you would a normal Land Rover seat, whereas the Puma second row seats, you've got they're high back with head restraints, and you can fold them down and get full low space capacity, which is why I like them. And they're more secure and more sturdy. They're a bit heavier, but so what. So the plan with that, you can either modify this tub, YRM, and I've got some parts and I can fully modify that and adjust the chassis a little bit, and everything else is bolt on, or get a new Puma tub on the rear. Now this tub is incredibly crusty. Ideally I'd want to get a Puma tub. They are really expensive, so I need to work that out. The decision for getting a Puma tub rests on my other ambition in the future, which is putting a roll cage in here as well, and there is some compatibility issues I need to iron out with the Puma seats, the Puma tub, and the roll cages you can fit. Now, Safety Devices, who I will be using for my roll cage, only do external ones for the Puma officially. Unofficially they will fit an internal cage, which is what I want. I won't go into that now. I've been working through that on the forums. So really, I haven't actually got to the chassis yet because I've got these other things, C-posts, which then affected the tub and other things, and seats, and then that's going to affect the roll cage in the future. Plus the fact that in the last 6 months, roll cages have gone up about Safety Devices roll cages have gone up about 90 quid. I was going to buy one 6 months ago, and now, you know, my website tracks prices of stuff. I know exactly when prices move and things like that. So that's another consideration as well. I'm happy to replace the rear tub as a partial rebuild. I think I can do that on the driveway here, but as far as the full rebuild, that is something, as I said, I've been waiting 8 years to do. I want to do that by myself. I don't want to pay a garage to do that. It's something that I've had in my head of doing, maybe just have it over a couple of years. And we've always had this image of getting a better house with more space and maybe some internal inside working space to work on. That's not quite there yet, which is why I don't want to do this right now, because it would just be an utter pain. I also probably need to start commuting in the next month. I'm due to go to Africa for a month in July, go to Middle East in September. My job is supposed to be traveling 50% of the time. So really I need to take the vehicle off the road, have a runabout and do it that way. But it's just not in the right, we're probably going to be quite fluid with our location. I want to keep the vehicle on the road so I can at least move the vehicle instead of having an unbelievable amount of parts I have to shift along with an entire house move as well. So that's why I don't want to tackle a rebuild right now, even though I know that it's probably going to need to happen. I could be taking the vehicle off the road and just say I'll just take it off the road and get a runabout, not do the rebuild but just keep it drivable, but then it's still, you've got this big friggin' lump you've got to move if you do a house move. I'd rather keep it in a drivable condition if possible. So as it is, the MOT has been extended. I'm not going to have a chance to renew it now. Oh, and the other thing is, if I am going to go to Puma Seats, Puma Tub, it's made this mid-cross member replacement pointless because it's a different mid-cross member for Puma Seats. So at least this cross member's gone in. I realised that halfway through doing the cross member, but I've put this one in. That's then braced the C-pillars in their original position. I can then fit the C-pillars to this mid-cross member and to this tub, and then I can potentially change the tub in the future and fit the tub to these C-posts, and the doors should still fit. Trying to swap out like one thing at a time, ideally. Lockdown generally has been good. I've got a lot of jobs done on the vehicle so far. I've replaced the front exhaust, I've replaced the front prop shaft, filming a video. Yeah, lockdown's been good. Changed all the, I've taken the injection pump off, changed all the seals in that, replaced the front exhaust pipe, replaced the UJs in the front prop shaft, a whole bunch of other stuff that's been niggly. I've done a couple other videos that will come out around that sort of stuff. I've done all the rear shocks at the back. I had to cut off the rear shock mounts just to be able to change the upper shock bush. So I've already done like a full lockdown's worth of work on this vehicle so far, and I'm looking at a full summer's worth as well. Anyway, so the plan from this point is, once I've got the C-post done and I've possibly come up with a plan for the body, I've still got the chassis to contend with. Footwells I'm not sure on at the moment. I think I'm going to do something with the front dum irons. I could give it to a garage to do, but my experience with garages and welding is that they'll probably end up doing a really crap job. And if I'm going to end up with a crap job, do I pay a bit more, get all the equipment and do it myself, and at least then I'm learning something? You may be surprised, I've been involved with Land Rovers 12 years and I know how to weld, but I've not really done welding, and particularly the welding, the rear cross member of this vehicle, when it needed to be done, I didn't want to do that myself. I paid a garage to do that, and they did good welding, to be fair. I had welding done on my previous Defender and it was just awful. It was utterly awful, and I was like, why did I just pay you to weld that? I could have done something probably only slightly worse myself. So the question is, so the front dum irons, you can get repair sections, and it's a box section, so you may be able to plate it quite straightforwardly. Question is, if I'm going to get a welder and have a crack at it myself, I'm fully aware that you get what you pay for with welders. So I could spend, it probably cost me about 800 quid to get like a decent gas MIG, kind of entry level, 180 amps, I think, that kind of thing. And then I have to buy all the equipment and mask and gloves and all that kind of stuff as well, and the gas, which isn't cheap. And try and do it properly and get some sheet metal and just try and learn a bit and fix up the chassis that way. But that's 800 quid, which I've just spent £1,000 on this. I might be having to do the tub as well. I'm on 80% hours at the moment. Yeah, things are a bit, I've just got to be careful. Or I just buy a 100 quid welder, gasless, because I'm going to be doing it outside. And I live in one of the windiest parts of the UK, so gas MIG welding outside, it might be a bit tricky. So do I just go for it? Or is the fact that I'm a total newbie to welding, does it just mean my welds are going to be awful, so I might as well just go for a cheap welder, a gasless MIG with flux core welding wire, and just try and bodge it as best I can, make sure it's strong but not look pretty, and just get it over and done with to get me through the next 2 years? Do I focus on that? I'm very interested in people's advice here, because it's I know people, they start out with, particularly George on Soup Classic Motoring, who's a member on LR 4x4 as well. We've all been following him for a long time. Started out with a poor quality MIG welder. As he will admit himself, he's done some poor quality welding. He's getting better now. I'm very aware that people say, the MIG was just useless. I wish I'd got a better, it's so much easier now, I've got a better quality MIG welding machine. So I'm interested to know whether you think it's worth spending the 800 quid now, or maybe 300 quid now on a welder, considering that, well, it might be a life skill as well for fixing Land Rovers in the future. So please leave a comment below. I'm having to think about what to do, and then that will then dictate basically what I'm doing for the rest of the summer. Oh man. In terms of the rest of the chassis, I'm going to pump it full of wax. The rear of the chassis, I might drill a few extra access holes and things like that. I was going to do that this weekend, but somebody decided to spray the Land Rover with a hose pipe, so it's not dry enough to wax oil this weekend. Yes, so there we are. That was the update, but yeah, thank you for everyone's feedback. I think the video might have been quite interesting to some people, slightly divisive on other aspects as well, but I mean the inside, taking a look inside the chassis. I do realise that it's got its days are numbered, and I'm just life. Life is the situation I'm in. I'm having to think on my feet, manage finances, manage my time, etc. You all know how it is, I'm sure, and some of you have been through this already and come out the other side. So please, if you've got any thoughts on my plan, then leave a comment below as well. Right. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.